And what about ye? And on the ramp today we have an Alfa Romeo, my Alfa Romeo, and well, decided to do a wee bit of maintenance on it and all that sort of thing. But then when I had a wee look around it, well, I found some things that I didn't really like the look of. So I've stripped the back of it out. So we have the rear light clusters out and well, the inside of the boot out as well. So what I found when I opened the boot was this wheel well was completely full of water, and well, it's coming in through that hole there. Well, more specifically, it's coming in through there. It doesn't actually come in through the holes themselves, but that's what happens, and that's a wee earth point there. So saturated. Well, there's not much point drying the whole thing out if I don't find the source of the problem, where the water is getting in. So what's happening here is the water's running down this gutter in here, and then it's just getting in wherever it can to any of these holes, and then making its way down in. So what I've discovered is this tail light cluster. I noticed that it was sitting a wee bit protruding, a wee bit proud, so it wasn't just sitting correctly on that corner. And closer inspection then led me to see that these fixings, there's 4 of them all together, these fixings had sort of came adrift, and they weren't really doing anything. So I've JB welded all them in again, so we'll see how long that lasts for. I think it'll be alright. And then there's this by here, goes on, this foam thing goes on there as a gasket, which is in good enough condition. So that goes on the back there like that, with all the bulbs in it. So there we go, we'll see how it does. What we're really here for is, well, the car has 2 broken springs. We never had it up in the air. So what we'll have to do is, it's sort of double mounted, these things. So we have 4 bolts from below pointing up, and then we'll have that top one. So we're going to take that one off, and over here, that one there as well. Car's up in the air, rear wheels are off, and this is what I saw whenever she was up in the air. So broken spring there, that's our 4 Torx there holding her up, and we'll have a big bolt down the bottom. So the problem with these things is, well, that thing there doesn't clear, it doesn't come out because of that protruding stud at the top. And you have to push this whole thing down. So we'll see how we get on. And we'll just go over to the other side while we're here, sure. And we'll have a wee look at this one. And more or less the same place, you know, in the middle of the spring there. So this back end is basically based on a 159. Well, it is a 159 back end, and the subframes and these swinging arms are known to rot. So yeah, but that's no problem. I've actually procured replacements which have been refurbished, so they're all right at the minute, all these arms and all. So we're just here to replace the springs. We'll start off with this lower bolt. Get a bit of panther in it, so once it starts to move, that should help. So did I mention this car is 2006 model year, and I've owned it from new, and I don't really do an awful lot of maintenance to it. It's the old saying, never a car owned by a mechanic, but it gets the oil changes and stuff. There's not very many miles on it, it's only about 22,000. This is I have two cars, you know, so this is like the second car, weekend car or something, whatever you want to call it. So these bolts can stick in these bushings and all that malarkey. So I've learned this from you, so I know this has never been off. So I've never took it off. So here we go. And we'll take another little bar drop link off now. I've cheated. I've already cleaned these threads up, and I know it's going to come off dead on because I've already run the nut in now. And we'll just take these top four Torx headed boys in. I can get the ratchet to go right. Shouldn't be a problem with them because they're inside the car. So this is the tricky bit. We could put a great big bar in here. Let's see how much travel we're going to get in these bushings. Yeah, I'll probably get it, but I might do something a bit different. Probably get it out of that. Let me see. We have a porta par. That's what we call them, porta par. If we're pushing out dents and bodywork now, you know. Let's see. Does that give us enough? Just about. Pry bar required down at the bottom. There we go. And we'll just take a strain off that. And well, usually I have to take out the other one. I'll change these two springs at once. Right, fast forward a bit, and we've both struts out and dismantled. They're over there. Show you in a minute. And our busted springs, both the same, in sort of two halves. And here's a new one. But what I'm doing here at the minute is I give them a bit of a wire brushing, and I give them a bit of a going with this stuff. I don't know who this guy is, Land Rover blogger. I bought that on eBay for, I think it was about £25. It's a litre of rust converter that the Land Rover boys seem to use. So we'll give them a bit of a paint. They're grand, they work fine. They're gas struts, but I'll take you over these springs and show you something I maybe haven't said before about springs. Right, this new spring here is KYB, and you might say to yourself, it looks pretty symmetrical. So in other words, it's the same sort of there as it is there, the looks of it. So what way does it go? Is there an orientation? Does it go that way or that way? Well, there is a preferred orientation, and you might be able to see it just initially by the diameter there. But I can tell you, well, there's the writing. Okay, well, if I can get it in the shot, right? But you see, when these are powder coated, they're hung up with a hook like that, you know. So whenever they're powder coated, you know. So what you'll see in here is a wee mark, a wee dimple. Let's see if we can get you in that. See that wee dimple? So you get this on nearly all new springs or most new springs. So that is a wee bit that isn't powder coated. You see that okay there? Coming into shot. So you don't get that on the other end, you know, because that's where it's been sort of hung up when it's coated. So that wee dimple is a place where there's no coating on it. So you don't want the dimple at the bottom. You want the dimple at the top, you know. So it's not really a dimple. It's a bit that is missed, if you want. It's a bit that hasn't been powder coated. These springs are going to be both the same. So we'll have a wee look see at this one. We can see our little mark. There's it there. Maybe easier to see in this one. Well, there's it there. So that's a bit that hasn't been powder coated, you know. So that's where it's been hung up, really there, you know. And so you don't want that at the bottom, because if you have it at the bottom, the water's going to get out of there. So there as you can see it. See it pretty well in that one. So that's where it's been hung up. So you want that at the top. How do we look? There's another spring that I'm going to fit to another car tomorrow, I think. How do we look at this? So there we go. So that's where the thing's been hung up, and you don't want that at the bottom because it'll rust. So let me see this other end. Any dimples there? But there's clearly one there on this one. Whenever that blue stuff dries out, you need a wee bit of temperature. If it's really, really cold, it takes a while. But must be sort of water based. But anyway, this is just to tidy these up a wee bit. So this is spray on hammering. It's basically thick paint. So we'll give her a couple of coats, let her dry, and get the spring of things back on again. So there we go. They were left overnight, hanging downside up like a fruit bat. And even if you get new shocks, you know, or because I left them hanging upside down, you want to give them a good pumping, you know, to get that to get it into the right position again. So just a wee thing to note in this, you know, so there's a wee flat bit here that lines up with this. That does not line up with the top plane, so you need to take some sort of reference or some sort of mark before you take these apart. But yeah, we'll get these in. Right, one strut ready to go in. I've already done the left side, and we'll bring it around. We'll do this right side here, see how it goes. And we'll pump her up. Yeah, that's not being chopped. Get our new strut into position. Well, it's not new, it's just new spring that looks like new. And then I'll bring it down a wee taste more. Yeah, look, with the porta power still holding it for us there, we can move this up and down then, so quite easy to put the bolt in. Wee bit of anti-sneeze, in this case it's just the old fashioned copper grease. And we can just push up in behind. So with the bolt end down below there, at this point we can get a bit of an idea where these top mounting bolts are going to line up for us. So if this is off, if this is twisted, so this isn't like, you know, on a front strut where there's a top bearing. You know, some have a bearing at the bottom of the strut, but mostly have a top bearing at the top. So you know that'll turn, so it doesn't make any difference. On these type here, you need to get it lined up. Now, I must confess, I took photographs, and what I did was reference this sort of flat plane to the angle of you know, the bottom bush. So I did that before I disassembled it. However, I still had on the left one, this one looks spot on here. So it's sort of first time. On the left one, I had to take it off again and make a slight adjustment because this top was slightly twisted. and I just compress the spring and just give it a wee tweak, you know. But you don't want any tension on this. So what we can see, if I release the port apart, brake hose is still, sorry. Let her come up in. Oh. Yeah, that's not too bad. Looking. Yes. So those bolts are going to go in dead on. You should be able to, you know, sort of thread them in by hand nearly. You don't want to be twisting all these rubbers for obvious reasons. You'll wear them out prematurely. I must remember to get that down into place there. Grand job. That's how we look. Yeah. Happy with that. So I actually took a few photographs of you know, that angle there with respect to the top mount. But the spring was still broken. But you have to remember, you know, the spring is broken, so, you know, even if you put it together again, it mightn't be 100%. That's why I had to tweak the left one, I think. So you can see that flat, and you see this bit where it's angled. So that's what I was interested in. And the right and the left, you know, this one, you see where it's angled that way, you know, with respect to this flat. So the right and the left are opposites. You know, so one of them angles the other way. So yeah. Oh, that's my new employee there. What do you think? So there we go. So you need to be able to get all these in by hand, basically, and with no sort of tension on this. You know, not forcing them in. These inverted torques they are, E14. It is, and yeah, if you find that you have to, there is a tension on this, you know, well, there's a fair chance what will end up happening is that maybe the lugs of the aluminium mount will snap on you. But yeah, so no tension on these. They are a bit of a pain, it can be, and if you've done a few, you know, you sort of get to know the wee caveats. But there we go. So we can dispense of this baby here, lifesaver. So the whole thing about that port apart, it's a wee bit like if you watch my other videos, you know, the big blue bar that I use for the front suspension for wishbones, and the whole thing about it is control, you know. So the blue bar holds it down for you, and you know, it's the thing is stable, and you can adjust it, you know, you can pull it up and down. I'm doing the same thing, only with a different tool, you know. I'm doing the same thing with the port apart there for this rear suspension. So I don't use that port apart an awful lot, but in this case here, because I don't really do body repairs, and that's what it's primarily for. But is this ABS where I'm going to go? Get in there, you boy. There we go. And the brake hose back in again. So those disconnected there for pulling that up and down. You know, you don't want to put tension on any of those things. So that's us for the moment. Now we can go ahead and tighten the drop links here on both sides at this point. But that bottom bolt there, we'll want to keep it loose. So I'll run the nut up a wee bit and then just back it off about half a turn or something, and then we'll put the car down. And I like to put the car, the full weight of the car on I have a alignment table, so I like to put the full weight of the car on it. You can't jack it up, but I really like doing that in the 2-post lift. So we'll get there. So what's that German talks back? Guten Tag. Click. The car back down on the deck again, and it just leaves these wee boys here to go on again. So it wouldn't be a particularly bad job, you know, but I had to strip this boot out anyway for my water ingress problem. But if you just had to change the springs, you have to strip the boot out just to do these. So that's really it for this video, and just have to put this boot back there again, put these lights back in, and all that sort of thing. So no bushings were harmed in the making of this video. A lot of the bolts, if you do have to, if you can't pull the suspension down, you just need to be cautious of the outermost bushings towards the hub. The bolts in them are camber adjustment bolts, so it's worthwhile maybe marking them or whatever if you have to do that. But I've shown here that you don't have to touch them. You don't have to loosen any of those bolts at all. So there you go. Maybe get something out of it. All the best, and
Thank you, Dr. Jamie.
You gonna take a big bite?
You wish to. 40.